Dog on the boards. Busy Monday yesterday with Marathon Monday in Boston. And of course, the Red Sox going early. It was packed down there. Very successful big day, it looked like, across the board, and pretty cool. So good going for that. J Dog on the boards. It is a Tuesday morning, and we're looking at some clouds out there, but it's going to be warmer. We get a little, it's been back and forth, cool, warm, but we're going to get on the warmer side. And hey, Google, hey, Alexa, play the Pulse of an HR poll question out of the gate this morning up on X. Make it easy for you here. Everything's the Pulse of an H, and it has to do with this recent back and forth, or at least from the President Donald Trump, towards the Federal Reserve. And the chairman, by the way, he nominated, but we'll come back to that. Do you think the Federal Reserve should lower interest rates? Yes or no? We're just asking you straight up. Probably about time they do, but maybe they won't. We'll see. But that rift is growing. Excuse me, President Trump bashing against Powell on the Federal Reserve yesterday. Markets not liking that. We had one of those swings down yesterday, markets selling off. Today, I guess, a little bit up. We'll have much more on some of the other news talk of the day, including our own White House correspondent, John Decker, coming up. A couple of home shows in the air. We'll hear from some of our friends at LaValle and Middleton Building Supply, as well as some others. And Doug Tengden will weigh in, our economic thinker and talker at this hour, on the spat or the back and forth between, or it's actually more one way, Donald Trump bashing the Federal Reserve and the chairman yesterday. We'll come back to that. In our studios as newsmakers out of the gate, he is the recent chair of the Republican State Party, Chris Ager, here in our studios with a guest talking about President Donald Trump's first 100 days coming up in really just, less than, we're talking the end of the month here. It's going to be an event down in Salem, and we're going to talk about that. And we'll also talk about the first in the nation presidential primary. Let me bring in, though, the most recent chair of the state Republican Party, still involved in the state Republican side of things. And we have midterm elections already on the horizon. In case you haven't heard, Mr. Chairman, I'll still call you Mr. Chairman. There's a U.S. Senate race that's up, and Chris Pappas already in. We'll see if Scott Brown jumps in and others. But good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great, Jack, and thanks for having us on the show. I'm here with Dave Hebert from Salem, who's actually leading the charge for this 100-day celebration for President Trump's accomplishments in Salem.
Well, we have time to talk about it. I have to tell you today, and of course, the one thing about our lives as individuals, whether have a talk show or you're into politics or public policy or a business owner, things change. Things do change quickly in our society. And I have to tell you, today, these swings in the economy, inflation's still high, the push on tariffs, the people's 401k, inflation not maybe coming down as much as we want. A lot of people are wondering how New Hampshire is going to play in these midterms. So, as the first 100 days we look back on, it's been incredible shock and awe, 2 or 3 big things every day. Hard to keep up with all of it, whether it's on illegal immigration, the defense secretary now back in the news. You look at, tariffs and all this. It's a lot to keep track of. But are you concerned? Because typically we see a blue wave after an election like we saw on November 5th. Are you worried about the midterms here in New Hampshire, that Senate race I referred to, congressional race in the 1st district with Pappas running? Do you like what you see or not?
I feel very bullish. A couple of reasons there. Donald Trump is a special kind of politician. So the normal expectation that midterm you're going to lose seats, he's defied the odds. So you never know what's going to happen with Donald Trump in the White House. He's also been extremely active and effective in the first 100 days. 129 executive orders, 33 proclamations, 33 memorandums. The signing of legislation is lagging, but President Trump's not waiting for legislation. I think he learned in his first term that he had to hit the ground running really hard, and he had 4 years to think about what he was going to do. And now he's executing. And some of the sports analogies, it's like a home run hitter. He's a slugger. And when you swing for the fences, you don't hit the ball every time, but you hit enough to make a difference. And on the border, energy policy, some of the DEI stuff he's doing, reducing the federal workforce, it's like ripping off a scab. Or a Band-Aid, but it's helping in the long run. And I think all the Republican activists are extremely happy with President Trump, what he's doing. And everything's not going to be perfect.
Right.
Every single issue is not going to work out exactly the way we want, but overall, the trend, the tide, everything's moving in the right direction.
We'll come back with Dave because we have time to talk about the what's happening in Salem. But let's talk about that U.S. Senate race. Arguably, it will be the biggest political race in New Hampshire's history, with money spent total in and out of state. Looks like it. And one of the big Senate races in the country, if you're looking for balance of power in the midterms, and Donald Trump is going to need some Republican majority or control in Congress if he's going to finish his agenda for the back 2 years. So my question is, this the Senate race here, Chris Pappas arguably out in front, freezing the field really for Democrats. Maggie Goodlander not surprised. It was pretty clear the last few weeks she wasn't going to jump in. So it seems to be Pappas's nomination for the taking. On the Republican side, now that Chris Sununu, and he said on this show, my show a few weeks ago, he's not running. Really, the only Republican I hear is Scott Brown. Can any Republican beat Chris Pappas in this environment? If you look at independents in the midterms and you think they're probably going to go a little more blue than purple or red?
I think so. I think Scott Brown is the most likely Republican nominee. I don't see anybody else who could challenge him in the primary, except for Chris Sununu and Kelly Ayotte, and neither of them are running.
Right.
So I think Scott Brown has a good opportunity to win the nomination early, which will allow him to focus on Chris Pappas. And I think when you take Scott Brown and Pappas and put them side by side, it's going to look a lot better than it looks on paper right now. Scott Brown's a ferocious campaigner. He understands the issues of being in the Senate. He can raise a boatload of money. He knows people all across the country. He's already met with Charlie Kirk, Senator Thune, Senator Tim Scott. So he knows how to campaign, how to get the job done. He's also been meeting with individual Republican activists throughout the state. He's been calling them, meeting with them, Second Amendment people, shoring up because some of them were concerned with him. So he's hitting it head on. People who've disagreed with him in the past, he's going directly to them and talking with them. And it's about time Republicans have representation in Washington. And Scott Brown would be great. CD1 also could be a competitive race. None of these are easy. We've lost federal races as Republicans, I think the last 18 or 19 in a row. With Donald Trump in there, when the economy turns around and next year things are going well, I've got a feeling we're going to do very well.
Well, it might come down to the economy. Well, let me ask you a question. I would think the good news for you, Chris Egger, is the recent Republican chair in New Hampshire, looking at the Trump factor here or state races. The good news for you, it would seem to me, is that with the shock and awe of the first almost 100 days, so many things happening so quickly, energy, illegal immigration, taking on Harvard, DEI stuff, pushing back, tariffs, taking on the economy and a lot of that. Democrats, for the most part, a month ago or a few weeks ago, the cool thing was to go out and key Teslas and blow up Teslas because of Elon Musk and looking at Doge and eliminating waste. A few weeks ago, it was the Pete Hegseth week on the Signal group chat thing. And now Hegseth is back in the news. And the good news might be that some Democrats want to fly to El Salvador and talk about a so-called Maryland resident, but actually an illegal migrant's fate and due process. I don't know why he's entitled to any due process. He's not a legal citizen here, but they seem to think so. So the good news is that these are the issues that they seem to be trying to feed on. The bad news for you, though, however, is New Hampshire has shown a tendency to split the ballot in big elections. Vote Republican in the State House, Kelly Ayotte, State House Republican, State Senate, but federal delegation. The challenging thing I see is Kelly Ayotte ended up winning the governor's race by closer to 10 points than 2 or 3. Trump had closed the gap here in New Hampshire and tightened it up between him and Harris in November. And state-wise, Republicans did very well at the State House. The bad news right now is it feels that right now, if you looked at an election going to the midterms, it feels like Trump may be in New Hampshire down by 12 points. It just feels like that. I may be wrong. And when you go into a state election, a midterm, if there's a wave, I would think even Kelly Ayotte would be concerned about this, believe it or not. With the independent voters who are such the big block. If they're voting against Trump now because of the economy, and my point is the economy. If inflation doesn't come down, despite all the push for tariffs, if people feel they're still not ahead with their own wallets and pocketbooks, they're going to take it out in the vote in the midterms. They're going to send a protest vote, even if some of those independents voted for Trump versus Harris. That's my take. Tell me I'm wrong.
going to come out to vote because he's not on the ballot.
Right.
And if they don't come out and vote, and the Democrats do, then that could be bad for Republicans. So we need President Trump to get involved in New Hampshire. And I see a potential for him to endorse certain federal candidates in New Hampshire and help motivate Republicans to come out and vote. Democrats right now also, they're pretty demoralized. They don't have a real leader. David Hogue, the vice chair of the DNC, seems to be one of their leading spokesmen, along with AOC, and that's the fringe of the Democrat Party. So if that's their face,
Yeah.
it could be good for us. But Republicans in New Hampshire have a different branding than national Republicans. A little bit more moderate on the social issues, fiscally more responsible, and that resonates with New Hampshire folks. And I think that's part of why we see a split between federal and state. Republicans trust Republicans in the state. Federal, a little bit too conservative on social issues and fiscally not as responsible. And so I think that's why we see that break. I think with Scott Brown and possibly a CD1 candidate, they may reflect better.
Give us some names in this first congressional district Republicans. We know Stephanie Shaheen was on the show last week, and of course she's running. I mean, I could tell you she's running. I think it's going to be hard to beat a Shaheen name in a primary in the first district. But who's the Republicans running?
So the people who've already expressed their interest, Chris Bright, who ran last time, Brian Cole, who's a state representative in Manchester, formerly city chairman, Holly Novleski, who ran.
Yep.
Those are people who've talked about it. There are other people who are very good candidates who are primary yet. I'm not ready to say yet. I think that's confidential.
Sure.
But we have a list of 15 people that we've been talking to and vetting to say, hey, are you going to run or not?
Yeah.
What we don't want is a free-for-all. We'd like them to all talk to each other. And if they, amongst themselves, determine who they think would be the best candidate, it'd be great if we could rally behind them. There's a brutal primary in September against, let's say, a Stephanie Shaheen who does not have a primary. Boy, you're just stacking the deck against yourself. So we're trying to allow those people to have those discussions.
All right, take a quick break. Well, Dave's nice enough to be here. We'll talk about his event coming up in Salem, the first 100 days, April 30th, and it looks like it's going to be in Salem, New Hampshire, an afternoon event. Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, play The Pulse of an Age. Jack, Heath, J-Dog on the boards. Back in a few. Good stuff. All right, welcome back. Talking about the economy, talking about uncertainty. Jury's still out in a lot of this stuff. And of course, Donald Trump's not running again in this midterms, but in a sense, he is in terms of being on the ballot here at home. And Chris Ager, most recent chair of the Republican Party. And you brought in, you can reintroduce Dave here, who's Dave Aber, I believe is the last name. Dave is organizing, hard to believe, first 100 days. It has been an incredible, eventful. I mean, I'm going to just tell you, the inauguration day set it all. It set the tone. You have the inauguration, late morning, midday, um, a rally, Oval Office signings, open press, media, balls at night, more signings. I mean, it was hard to keep up with the first day. It's going to be 100 days, not long here. So, tell us, Dave, about April 30th, Wednesday.
April 30th is going to be a real nice event. We've reached out between 300 and 400 people at that event. We think that we're going to have a lot of turnout for it. We will be having hamburgers, hot dogs. We'll also have a booth there that people can buy souvenirs. I've had a lot of people talk to me and say they're very excited. They love doing flag waves through the whole time Trump was running. I did flag waves. I did the Trump trains from Hobby Lobby. We had barbecues in Pelham. It was just awesome, and we got the idea to do this the first 100 days because our feeling is that we want to get the grassroots back out there. This is what's happening in New Hampshire.
Well, you've seen, Dave, and maybe you can comment on this. I was just saying with Chris, it seems that in the first 30 to 40 days, Democrats did not be, I'm totally candid, they didn't know what hit them. They couldn't even respond to what the administration was doing because the administration was doing 2 or 3 big things every day. The Democrats was shocking out. They couldn't even respond. But it seems lately, and maybe it was started galvanizing on the Tesla stuff, which I never understood. Go out and blow up a Tesla because you don't like Elon Musk cutting federal waste. But anyway, you know what it is. It's because it's Trump and Musk doing it. I mean, it was cool for, it was cool for Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi a few years back to say we need to cut waste in Medicare or we're not going to have Medicare. But, it's not cool to do it. But the point is, the Democrats didn't know what him. But lately, the last few Saturdays, in the last, almost every weekend now in New Hampshire nationally, the Democrats seem to be getting their grassroots back out there. They are out there protesting. They're protesting deportations. They're protesting defying the judges. They're protesting Musk. They're protesting, I don't know, just about everything. Janet Mills wants to keep men and girls sports and will take on the administration. So they seem to be more on the progressive side of things, far left, out there organizing. So are you a business? Just curious, do you have your own business? What's your background? And do you feel the Trump grassroots need to get back out there again to talk about this first 100 days? Or, where do you feel the mood of New Hampshire right now?
Well, my feeling is this, and to answer your question, we own an aerospace company in Methuen, Mass. And then we have commercial properties, 4 different properties throughout New Hampshire, Plastow, Salem. Then we have commercial property, 2 commercial properties in Methuen. And to answer your question, yes, people have been anxious to get back out there because when the president was running, everybody was so happy to do the flag waves. I did a flag wave every Wednesday night. And at the very end, we had probably 400 people at one of my flags.
And you could feel things tightening in New Hampshire between Trump and Harris.
Oh, absolutely.
In fact, the gap almost closed. But now, what do you feel?
I think I honestly feel that we're still there, and by doing a flag wave like we're doing, it's just going to reinforce things. I do feel that people in New Hampshire, the Republicans, conservatives, I think they're all working to take a look at what Trump's doing. I feel that he's doing an awesome job.
And you have a business, you said, the aerospace business. Have the terrorists impacted you in any which way yet?
It's impacted us some ways, but we have some real good staff that are paying attention to what we need to do and how we need to do it.
See, I think independent business owners, arguably some of them, a lot of them maybe have voted for Trump than Harris in November 5th. But now these uncertainties in planning 12, 18 months out as a business owner, does the whole tariff stuff make it more arduous and almost tiresome for you as a business owner?
No, I don't think so. When it comes to our staff, the staff is looking at things, and I'm looking at, everything that's been going on in this country. We needed to, have things reset. There was just so many things that, the illegal immigrants coming in through
I
the
know.
borders, everything that, was going on, it just was upside down. And just by him doing what he's doing right now, the president, I think things are going to fix themselves in time. Everybody has to just kind of wait for things to happen.
Well, you know how we love to wait.
Happen overnight.
You know how patient people are in this country. If you get a text message on your cell phone, you get back to someone in a minute, they start yelling at you. Well, I think a reset is a good way to put it. And I'm looking at, I still think the other thing too is the national media. I mean, unbelievable, some of the television national media and how they cover this stuff. But we'll see where it goes. But I want to thank you. So if people want to learn more about April 30th in Salem, 3:30 to 6 p.m. Best way to follow up is how?
They can call me on my cell phone if they're interested. It's 978-580-9099. I'm happy to talk to them about the event. It's going to be a good event.
Any website home for this, or you just have your number here, 978-580-9099, Dave, if you want to go. But it's going to be on Main Street, 401 Main Street. Is that right, Salem? The actual flag wave in the first 100 days. Where's the event going to be?
It's going to be right at that property.
Okay, we got to get you a 603 area code number. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Chris Sager, thanks for coming into the studios. Keep in touch. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Good update. Good talk.
Oh,
Oh, yeah. You mentioned the primary. That's important.
yeah. So there's a first in the nation presidential primary committee.
Something the Democrats don't seem to give a damn about nationally.
Well, they should, and they say they do, but they've been ineffective.
Right.
With their national. But there is a first in the nation presidential primary committee supporting the Secretary of State.
Mhm.
It's his primary job to keep that first in the nation. And there's a 50th anniversary of the passage of House Bill 73, which Representative Splain from
Mhm.
Portsmouth was a sponsor.
Sure.
And that's going to be on May 27th in the State House and Executive Council offices. And it's going to be a celebration of that. 50 years from the passage of the bill.
Wow.
And
50
that
years.
bill was really what allows the Secretary of State
To set the calendar date ahead of any other state.
Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome.
And Bill Gardner will be there.
Oh, awesome. Yep. The great one, Dave Scanlon. Yep.
Scanlon, the governor, and the announcement will come out soon from the Secretary of State.
Celebrating our first in the nation presidential primary, May 27th, you said?
May 27th. It's a Tuesday after Memorial Day, and it's a big deal for the state to keep this. And just so people
Yes.
know, people are working this constantly, and it's a broad spectrum of people.
Yeah. Primaries are a good thing. Even if the Democrats don't like them nationally, primaries are a good thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
All right. Hey, Google. Hey, Alexa, play the Pulse of an H. Jack Heath, J-Dog on the boards. It is Tuesday. Back in a moment. right, welcome back. A lot to talk about. Our own White House correspondent, John Decker, joining us live. Hey, Alexa. Hey, Google Play the Pulse of an H. Pete Hegseth, the defense secretary, under fire again, at least from the national media, it seems, whether it's disgruntled employees over the latest signal controversy and sort of things getting out. Caroline Levitt of New Hampshire blasting national media yesterday, news media saying it's fake news that the president and the White House are quietly looking for a replacement. But here we go. It's been a few weeks, but now the Hegseth name in the news again. John Decker, what's this all about? Yeah, but there's one thing also happening. John Decker, our own White House correspondent, it's very clear to me. There's sort of the rats within the ship. There's something going on in and around, and of course, people don't realize how big the Pentagon is. It is a big, big place. And one thing I've noticed over the years of my national security seminar stuff at the War College years ago is there's a lot of kingdoms within the Pentagon, and some people don't like that stuff messed with. And I'm not saying that Hegseth has an internal problem, but it seems like he might. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where it goes. But I agree with you. It seemed that even on the Hegseth nomination process, when that was probably one of the most contentious, even more than RFK Jr.'s, I think, the most contentious of all the Trump nominations. And it was really on the wire there. And until a few senators said they were okay with it, and it might have been Collins in Maine and a few others. It was Joni Ernst. It seemed like remember I don't remember I don't remember forget stuff. Remember when President Trump went to Florida and sat next to Governor DeSantis, and let's face it, they haven't been political buddies. I think it was for the funeral of a police officer. The DeSantis people put out that Trump had asked him if the Hegseth nomination was in trouble, would DeSantis, do the defense secretary? And then, it seemed the president, when he thought Hegseth could get confirmed, he doubled down, he tripled down, and stood by it. But if this continues, I would imagine it raises some concerns if you're within the Trump White House, but maybe not. Yeah, right. Yeah, John Decker, our own White House correspondent. Yeah, I would agree with that. If this dies down, I've noticed. Thank you, John. I've noticed too, and I said with our last guest that it's hard to believe in really towards the end of this month. It's 100 days, the first 100 days, and what a raucous 100 days it's been. Right? I mean, buckle up. But it seems that the stories that the national media feeds on each week come and go, and 2 weeks later, people don't forget what they were feeding on. And I don't know how long they'll talk about the particular, let's just say, inmate in nicer settings in El Salvador from Maryland, the illegal migrant, so-called Maryland resident. In 2 weeks from now, it may not be top of the news. The Hegseth story may also go away. I'm sure they hope it does. I don't think the president would make a change, but you never know. But right now, I agree, John Decker, it's unlikely. The other thing I want to touch upon before we bring in our next guest, this this back and forth, or at least it's been more Donald Trump towards the Federal Reserve and Jerome Powell, the chair, and a lot of this may go over our heads, but you probably should realize that the interest rates that you pay if you're going to borrow money are set by the Federal Reserve, and the Federal Reserve will set the bank rates, the interest rates. If you get a mortgage, you borrow money. And right now, in case you're missing this story, because there's so much happening, people tend to miss this stuff. Yesterday, the market was down almost 1,000 points because the markets don't like the president bashing the Federal Reserve, saying that Powell should be fired. I don't like him. He's a loser because the president wants him to reduce the interest rates now. Doesn't want him to wait. He feels if the interest rates come down now, then any impact from the tariffs can be offset and it will spark some consumer activity and confidence that if you lower interest rates, people borrow money. This stuff is complicated by the experts, but it's really simple. Interest rates come down, people tend to borrow more, costs less. It's an amazing if you simplify economics. The only thing I sometimes wonder are the tactics of the president. People may not understand who nominated Jerome Powell to be the Federal Reserve Chair. What president nominated Powell to be the Federal Reserve Chair? It was Donald Trump in 2017 in his first term. Now, Janet Yellen, people forget, they left interest rates too low for too long. The funny money of 2.8, 2.9% to borrow a 30-year 2.9%, that's like using house money, bank money to buy a home. And people were borrowing $400,000 or $500,000 at 2.9%. Do the math. Interest rates go up, inflation goes up. At 7%, do the math. So it's interesting. I would think that sometimes, and he doesn't do this, the president should maybe explain to the American people why you think interest rates should come down now, because what the Fed does is they hold the policy too long. It's actually not good for the economy. Yellen kept the rates too low too long. Inflation went out of control. Powell may be holding them too high right now, should come down. But this spat between President Trump and the Fed chair he nominated is causing a lot of more uncertainty in the markets. Today, markets are up. Hey, when we come back, well, I guess we'll talk a little bit about a home show and some stuff happening. I don't know. We're going to learn Jennifer Cove and meet these people in our studios. Whatever Aaron does, I sometimes surprises me, just brings these people in, walks in like he owns the place. Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, play The Pulse of an Age. We got a lot more coming up. And our poll question this morning has to do with interest rates. It's up on X, The Pulse of an Age. Do you think the Federal Reserve should lower interest rates right now? I actually do. I just wish sometimes the president made a better case of it versus a blast on True Social, but he's kind of busy. Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, play The Pulse of an Age. Back in a moment. All right, we are back. We have you know what I love about this time of year? Look at the marathon yesterday, Red Sox playing early. Is there's all this stuff happening. And it really just like almost like, not to sound poetic, it's almost like the flowers and the buds and the plants. It just sort of blossoms and pops in May. We have all these neat events. You're going to hear from Bob Jackman, Lavelle Minute and Building Supply in the 10 o'clock hour about a home show they just did. And it's been going on. He's going to give us an update. But these folks come to us from Alton, New Hampshire, and some really wonderful people there. And you have the Prospect Mountain High School. We've had a great student on from there before who held a fishing derby tournament. How many high school students do you know in this country that would hold a fishing derby tournament to benefit veterans? Oh, let me tell you the number. Probably less than 0.0000%. I mean, all-star human beings. But the future business leaders, well, Jen Cove is going to tell us, but there's a home and garden show coming up in Alton, May 31st, the only Alton on earth that I know of. Maybe not. That's Henniker. But Jen, thanks for being in our studios. And DeAndre is a student at Prospect Mountain High School, is with you. So thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having us, Jack. Appreciate it.
And you're a teacher. Thank you for doing that.
Well, thank you.
Come a little closer to that microphone,
Thank
please.
you. It's a privilege to be a teacher.
Well, it's awesome to be a teacher.
Thank you.
I'm a parent of a teacher, and I think teachers have an incredibly challenging mission today, but it's probably never been more important.
I do believe it's never been more important than ever. I personally believe that in this day and age, we hear so much negative talk about education and our youth. And I think being on the front lines of that, I have family members in every generation of my family going back that have served our country in the military.
Thank you for that, too.
And who, I have a sister, nieces who are nurses who have served.
Well, you're a frontline family. Teaching, nursing, and military.
And,
wow.
Many of our generation have been educators. And I think that the best thing we can do, especially when times get hard, is to serve.
Yeah.
And I think it's easy to sit back and pass judgment on whether or not we think things are going well or going poorly. But I think that the most important thing to do is actually get involved and then make a decision on that. And I have to say that I happen to think that our kids are pretty awesome.
Well, when I meet them, they are.
They sure
I
are.
agree with you. Sometimes the perception in politics screws up everything.
Yeah.
You take the emotion out for a minute, and there's a lot more good and common sense. The younger people I've met, the caliber is amazing, and maybe Deandra is a great example. But real quickly, what subject do you teach?
I teach business and computer technology.
Wow, in high school?
In high school.
Wow, what a novel concept, something practical.
And
Amazing.
financial literacy, yes.
And by the way, I applaud you, Jen, for your comment about getting involved, because I don't want to get into politics now, but let's say it's there. A month or so ago, when people thought it was cool to go out and blow up a Tesla automobile at a dealership and risk people's lives with a Molotov cocktail, or go into a shopping lot and key a Tesla because you hate Elon Musk, I said, why don't you just stop being a juvenile delinquent, stop breaking the law, put your name on a ballot, run for state senate, get involved, tell people your way.
Yeah.
If you don't think the DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency, is a good thing or what you don't like, tell us, why don't you run for office and get involved? Why don't you stop whining, stop destroying property and acting like a brat? But that's just me. So no matter what the subject, get involved. Get involved. All right, tell us real quick before you bring in Deandra, because I want to meet the younger person. The Home and Garden Show coming up in Alton, May 31st.
Yeah, so we're the Future Business Leaders of America.
And tell us real in 30 seconds. What's that? I mean, I can tell from the name.
Future Business Leaders of America, we're about community service and creating leaders, connecting business and education.
Wow.
And that's really kind of my personal vision and mission. We are the largest global and national organization. We do a lot of scholarships as well as community service. And this is something that I am extremely passionate about. It's my personal mission, and it is what I've been doing for over a decade at Prospect Mountain High School. And I'm going to let DeAndre tell you a little bit about what some of the kids do at school. And we've been partnering with the Rotarians in Alton, who have been tremendous mentors to us, as have the Alton Business Association.
Awesome.
And the Rotarians in town did an Alton home show for many years. And this past year, they came to us and asked if we would take this over.
Good for you.
And so one of the big things that we've wanted to do is really we're looking for vendors. We're putting on this home show, and we want to. Small businesses are the backbone of our community.
Yeah, bingo.
And
Yeah,
not only that, they're the backbone of our economy.
especially in this region of the country, small independent employers with less than maybe 10 or 20, 15, 12, 6 employees.
And to your point, when I'm teaching kids about business, teaching them about economics, one of my big things is, listen, we need more than ever. We need to deal in facts, and we need to be able to sit down with one another. We need to be able to listen to somebody's opinion, even if it's different than mine.
Oh, what a novel concept, to agree to disagree civilly and not start yelling and screaming. And
we need to
yeah.
learn how to work together, and it's with small businesses. And
Yeah,
with
I
our
agree.
communities
I
that
agree.
do
It's
this.
called common sense.
It starts here, and it starts small, and it's things like this home show. And I need these local vendors to show up, because I'm teaching these kids to show up for them. And I need you.
Well, real quick,
to show up with
if I'm a local vendor or business, how can I? Is there a website? May 31st. Is there a place they can go to help you?
Yes.
What is it?
PMHS FBLA. That's Prospect Mountain High School FBLA.
Slow down one more time, because some people are driving. They're in the they're at home working. Okay.
PMHS. That's for Prospect Mountain High School. PMHSFBLA.com.
Now, also your FBLA, Future Business Leaders of America. Is there a home site there they can go there as well?
Same website.
See the same thing?
It's going to take them.
Okay.
As soon as they click on it, it's going to bring them to a home show.
Awesome.
They can tab over and learn all about it.
So is there something in the water and the air at Prospect Mountain High School where you do all these really cool things? Because we had another student here. What was his first name? Wyatt. Amazing young person. He comes in here. He's holding a fishing derby tournament to raise money for veterans. He's a high school student. I mean, this is amazing. So tell us, Deandra, thanks for being here.
So Deandra, tell me a little bit about yourself.
So I'm a senior at Prospect Mountain.
Yeah.
What are you doing next year? Why are you doing it?
I just committed to Bentley University.
Wow, good business school down in Boston. Yeah, wow, good for you. You know Wyatt, huh?
Yes, I do. He's kindergarten.
What is it about you? Do you love your school, your high school?
I do.
What do you like about it?
Well, as much as we go to classes, we always come together as a community to do great events. For FBLA, we did breast cancer awareness, and that we gave back to our community completely by raising a lot. And our whole school showed up wearing pink to support people affected in our town.
Now, I am blown away, J-Dog, at some of the students at Southern New Hampshire University, some of these high school students. Doing something good for your community seems to matter to you. Where does that come from?
I've known these people forever, and there's always people in need.
But where does that come from within you? Did someone teach you that growing up? Did you just learn from the community? But what, like Wyatt, why do you care about doing something positive in your community? I commend you for it, but where does that come from?
It comes from my mom and my family.
That's what I was looking for.
She grew up in the Philippines, and it's not as extravagant as here, and it's kind of poor there. So just to give back when I just have a roof over my head at least, and I can always give back, just having the bare minimum.
Jen, I am so appreciative for you to bring her and you come in, because this pumps me up for what I do each day. Because a lot of the crap that's spoon-fed nationally is divisive. It's almost meant to divide us. People arguing, they don't even know what they're arguing about half the time. When I meet younger people like this, it's like recharging my own battery that tells me they're great young people out there that understand and they care about their community. It just pumps me up. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
And thank you for teaching.
Well, thank you. The privilege is mine, and you know, when there is a bad day, and there are bad days, I'm not going to sit here and say that there aren't.
Right, but that's life, right?
That's life. Any job you have. I come from a corporate background. I did work corporate for a while. I will say this is the toughest job I've ever had, but it is also the most rewarding job that I've ever had.
But it sounds like your family has always stepped up,
Yes.
whether it's in healthcare, military, teaching. These are the front. I talk about all the time on my show. These are the frontline jobs. This should not be political.
No.
We need more EMT drivers,
Yes.
more firefighters. Last time I checked at 911, if you dial 911 at night at 2 a.m, you have a medical emergency. You probably want someone coming through that door, right? Who's trained. I would, right?
Yeah.
if we don't get younger people like your student here, people caring about these frontline positions, there's no one's going to be coming in for an hour. And if you're having a heart attack, you might not be there in an hour.
Well, that's the thing, and I think that people need to understand that it matters, and these kids matter. And if you do have a bad day with a colleague or with a student, that the next day they deserve a fresh chance. That
Yeah.
I, as an educator,
Yeah.
deserve a fresh chance.
Yeah,
And there are so many great people out there.
I know. And there's more, I believe it's like that country song. I think most people are good.
Yes.
It's like driving on the highway sometimes. The bad one or two are the ones you read about who cause someone to go off the road, but 8 out of 10 people are just trying to do it right. Thank you so much, Deandra. Thank you, by the way. Good luck. Keep involved, please. Whatever you do at Bentley, keep involved, make a difference. Thank you for inspiring an older host. Thank you. All right, when we come back. Good morning, Hampshire, the Pulse of an H, right after this.